Hello and welcome to LFC Transfer Room. It's the Rumble in the Jungle debate night. Damo versus Jack. No holds barred. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Jack, this is your 3rd time doing this. How are you feeling? Are you confident?
By all logic, I shouldn't be confident because I've lost the previous 2. But I am confident. Never short of confidence. James, how are you?
I'm very well. And we were talking about it, weren't we? You lost the Salah debate where everyone was like, we should get rid of Salah. And now suddenly look at how everyone's changed. No. No one wanted to get rid of Salah. So technically a moral victory, even though you lost in the debate.
In spirit, I won that one. I'm cool with that.
And Damo, you called this debate. 90 points is failure. Are you locked in? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see what Jack has to say, to be honest. He's got a lot to say to really win me over. That 90 points and no trophies is not a failure, to be honest. So, let's see what he has to say.
Okay, so if you're new to the channel, please give a like and a subscribe. There is a poll live on the channel as we speak, and it says who has won this debate. So at any point, if you think Damo nails it or if you think Jack nails it, you can vote for them. There's already been a vote, and I'm assuming that's Jack voting for himself because he did last time, because he's that type of sneaky player. But to give everyone an idea, Jack is on the fence that 90 points is a successful season. Getting into top 4 is a successful season. Damo's on the side of it's not good enough. 90 points, top 4, winning nothing is not good enough. So what we're going to do is what we normally do is opening statements, gentlemen. And Damo, I'm going to start with you. Why is 90 points not good enough?
Let me ask you a question. Have we got the best manager in the world?
Yes.
Have we got the best centre-back in the world?
Yes.
Full-backs?
Oh, without a doubt.
Would you say we've got the best DM in the world?
Top 3.
Definitely, yeah. What about Salah? Where would you say him in the world?
Oh, top right wing in the world, isn't he?
Well, why is 90 points and no trophies not acceptable? Why is it acceptable? Sorry. We've got a team here. We've not had a manager like this or a team like this since you're talking Shankly and Paisley days. And I believe that we had Kennedy Dalglish in the late 80s, but it still wasn't the same as the Dalglish. It still wasn't the same as Paisley and Shankly. And we're going to lose this chance that we've got with this best manager and these players if we're just accepting no trophyless seasons. And we can't have trophyless seasons with this manager and these sort of players, because at the end of the day, when they come up against you like say Man United and Chelsea's and Arsenal's in the past, they're not going to be on the same pedestal. They're not. The reason why Alex Ferguson is regarded as the greatest manager in the Premier League history, I hate bringing this up because I can't stand him, but he's there because he's the most successful. He took over Man United and brought them back to where Jurgen Klopp brought Liverpool, back to the top. But he's not remembered for that. He's remembered for his success after that. The following years, the Champions Leagues, the Premier Leagues. At the end of the day, Klopp's done an amazing job with this team, and to build up from where we were, and we were desperate, to be honest, absolute desperate. I think a win against anyone would have been acceptable, but the way Klopp's developed this team from there, I think it needs to be separated into 2 parts. You got the development side, where we've become one of the top teams in the world, to now we are one of the top teams of the world. You need to see it as that side now. We are one of the top teams of the world. Is 1 Champions League, 1 Premier League, 2 domestic cups enough before Klopp leaves? I don't think it is.
Damo there putting it on strong in the opening statement that if we've got the best in the world in so many different positions and the best manager in the world, should we be doing more? Now, just before I let you make your opening statements, Jack, I'm going to say thank you for Jen for the super sticker. If you want to put a question to either of these, Jen, with your super sticker, it can be part of the debate room for you getting involved. Always appreciate your support. So please put us a question to either Jack or Damo on this particular debate because you've actively got involved. Jack, opening statements time. Why is 90 points and no trophies a successful season?
When you look at a game of poker, you play the man not the game. When you're playing a Premier League domestic season, you're playing the game. You can't play the man. You only play the man twice. And the man in the last half decade has been Manchester City, led by Pep Guardiola, who have transcended what it means to be a super team. You know, in the history of the Premier League, 27 seasons, 12 times has a team gotten 90 points or more. And that has come in 10 individual seasons. Twice, there were two teams that got 90 plus points in a single season. And that was Manchester City and Liverpool, each time decided by a point. Every other time in the history of the Premier League, if you got 90 points, you won the title. That was the barometer. Win 30 matches, lose 8. That's enough. You win the title. But the fact of the matter is, Manchester City are an incredible side, and they won that title. And I agree with you, Damon, that the trophies you listed that have been won, when you look back a decade from now, I'll remember that we finished second by a point twice. Will the average Arsenal fan remember that? Will the average Spanish fan remember that? It's debatable. Probably not. Because I was going back through, I was looking back at the teams of the past. Being a point off the title, really, it doesn't mean much. But to call that a failure, when you're the 7th best team, point-wise, in the history of the top division of England, at least the modern version of it, 7th best in history. 7th best. Along with a side that is what, 3rd best? 2nd best back in 2020, or 2019, 2020. So to look at a league which is divided by 38 matches, and only 2 of them really are of serious consequence, Manchester City versus Liverpool, those both being draws, led to ultimately that being decided in Manchester City's favor. You can say no Premier League trophy is unacceptable. The fact of the matter is, it's perfectly acceptable when you got 92 points. You have to realize how hard that is to do. So few teams have done it before, Liverpool, but it just so happened that a team equally as good, if not better, got there first. So am I happy about it? I'm not sitting here parading 92 points. No team has gotten 90 plus points more than we have, but every other team has a Premier League title that accompanies it. We only have one. You know, we've got 97, 99, and 93, and only the 99 got us a league title. To have those expectations are so metronomically high, but to say it's a failure, 90 plus points, no. It's a wild success to get 90 plus points.
Okay, great opening statement. And remember, guys, if at any point you think Jack's winning the debate in terms of 90 points and no trophies is success, vote for Jack in the chat. And there's a poll live. Jack, as much as I can see in the chat, you know, we've got Jen, sorry, Jack, but no trophies is not acceptable. Gary saying we should have gone for everything. You're winning the poll 56-44. Now, I'm going to move this on, Damo. I'm going to talk about failure. Jack makes an interesting point about failure. Sometimes it's quite a strong word for something not to happen. And maybe it is an extreme version of the word, you know, saying that this club is a failure, this team is a failure. But failing an objective is still failing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it depends on context on it. I think it's a harsh word to use sometimes. I think some people described last year as a failure, but it wasn't a failure. It was a disappointing end to a brilliant, incredible year, but it was still a good season because we got a cup double, we reached final, and we narrowly missed out of the Premier League. But it wasn't a failure. That's, you know. But if we go into this season, and we should be winning at least one of the big trophies, and if we don't win another trophy, like not even a domestic cup, that is a failure to the standard that Liverpool have set, and to the standard Jurgen Klopp's at. That is a failure, and that's the harsh reality of sport. There's one winner, and there's several losers. That's the problem.
And, you know, he's right. You know, if you don't win the league, you've failed. If you don't win the Champions League, you've failed because you failed to win it. You don't win the Cups, Jack, you've failed to win it. So if you don't manage to win anything and you failed and failed and failed and failed, does that corroborate up to failure? Or is it still too harsh a word for you? I
mean, look, you know, you have to again, put expectations based on the quality that exists. Liverpool a decade ago, not winning the Premier League title, that's not a failure. Like, sure, you failed to win the Premier League title, but no one in their right mind was saying, you know, maybe 13-14 was the real chance that we had to actually win a title when we had some unbelievable talent. But years prior to that, even a few years after that, you're not expecting this team to challenge for titles. This team, I expect them to challenge for titles. I'm not sitting there saying you have to win the Premier League for this to be a successful season. You look at much better barometers of an individual team success, because Damo, you kicked it off by saying, do we have the best individual manager? Do we have the best individual players? And I agree, we have the best individuals in numerous positions. That does not cater you to a league season. It caters you to a knockout competition. And who did better in knockout competitions last year than Liverpool? We won 2 of them, and we were a goal within winning a third. That is as close to perfect as any team in English history has ever gotten in terms of knockout competitions in 1 year. You need a better system, not better players, a better system to win a long, grueling 38-match campaign. So I am much quicker to put failure upon the inability to win knockout competitions. So our inability to win a domestic cup prior to this year was a failure. Our inability in the Champions League final in 2018 was a failure. And this year's Champions League final was a failure. The campaign was a wild success. The result, obviously, detracting from the journey. But I don't think you can sit there and look at individuals as a reason that you should win a title. Manchester City are a better title-winning side, league title-winning side than we are. We're a better knockout cup-winning side. We haven't proven that. We haven't backed that up because they've won more domestic cups, but we've won the one that is almost worth 4 FA Cups. That's the Champions League title. So that's what I would say, is to kind of dig into that, James, is the knockouts is what I look more towards with failure, success, because it's much more cut and dry there. We had a great season in the Prem, about as good as you could get in history. Like you pick up that season and you drop it anywhere prior to like 2004, you're winning a title. And it's to paint that as a failure because of other teams' success. You weren't a failure. You were just beaten. That's not a failure.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry. Can I ask you a question? Is Pep Guardiola a failure in the Champions League with Man City?
Yes.
Why?
Because he hasn't won it.
There you go.
I don't know what that proves. That actually backs up my point. Because the knockout competitions, you can paint with that kind of brush. Versus the League Cup, he's better at winning league titles than Klopp is. That's not an insult. He's just better at it than that. But in terms of managing those knockouts, those where it's one moment to decide an entire campaign, he's not as good at that. And that's why the margins are so fine. You saw Manchester United and Arsenal kind of have almost a complete run at it with for about 10, 15 years in the Premier League, because that has far more consistency, that has far less wiggle room possibly than some do in terms of knockout competitions. But yeah, he's a failure in the Champions League because he hasn't won it, obviously.
Okay, so Demo, I'm going to come to you. We're going to look at this. Let's look at it from a different lens, because obviously I put a bit of pressure on Jack with the failure. Let's put a bit of pressure on you with it. Jurgen Klopp's tenure is like a book. It's like a story, isn't it? And we talked just then, Pep Guardiola's a failure because he's not won the Champions League. If he leaves, that book's closed and it's a failed book. Jurgen Klopp's book is filled with everything. It's a tick on everything. So one season doth not a story make. One contract is the story. So does every story have to be a banger? Look at The Walking Dead. It went through seasons of boringness before it got interesting again. Is this just 90 points, still in the Champions League, still moving forward? That's not failure. That's just a boring season.
It depends how quick you turn over the wins. Like we've gone 2 seasons now without winning the big trophy, without winning the Champions League or the Premier League. I don't think a team that is in a dynasty or creating a legacy should be doing that. Man United didn't go 2-3 seasons without winning a league or a Champions League. Even Chelsea didn't do that, and even Arsenal at some points they won at least FA Cups every doubles and things like that, and invincible season and things like that. But one Champions League and one Premier League with this team and this manager in the whole time Jurgen Klopp's going to be here is not a failure, but those seasons that we didn't win out is a failure. That's what I'm trying to say. This season, if we should be fighting for that Premier League. We should be fighting for that Champions League this season. And if we don't win it, it's a failure.
But Damon, I think you're talking about looking back on the Jurgen Klopp era. and you're looking back at it in the results-oriented lens. You're not looking back at the Jurgen Klopp era. You're looking back at any manager in history's era. Jurgen Klopp has been so different than every other manager. That's why he has such a connection to Liverpool, because it's about the journey rather than just solely the destination and the result. Obviously, that matters probably the most still. You can't really get away from the fact that what is in your trophy cabinet? We have the most, major honors in English history. That's why we are the club we are today. I'm not sitting here saying we were great every year, but we were just pipped out every time. That's enough. I want us to be winning Premier League titles, but there are some interesting comments in the comment about, City's wealth, City's spending. I don't look at that as much personally, because we've spent ample amounts. We spent enough money to kind of have that be put to the side. But when Jurgen Klopp is saying, before the season that his goal is top 4 and then a title race, if it comes from that, is great, that's the perfect logic to hold, because you can't take every match, we can't take the full season from day one. You can't be in day one where I don't even know who we're playing in the first match. It's Fulham. When we're going to that match against Fulham, you can't be thinking about what's happening in match day 38 and how close we are for the title. You have to be doing it one by one. And that's so difficult to go against top Premier League sides every week, week in, week out. And we're about 2 weeks out from the Premier League season, and I need to make a prediction before the year starts on who's going to win the title. Right now, I'm leaning City win the title, personally, because I just think that their system, the way they play football, is better geared for the Premier League.
Oh, and with a comment like that, Jack, I can tell you now the vote has swung in Damo's favour, 60-40, predicting Man City are going to win the Premier League. But Kev makes some really good points, Damo, in the chat. I don't know if you can see them, but we're against we're against a country. We're a club, we're a business, we're a well-run business. We're not in billions of pounds worth of debt like Man United. We're not run by a country like Man City. So we're a well-run club who is financially, and as much as Jack doesn't want to acknowledge it, financially, we are breaking the mold. This shouldn't happen. So surely the story of a bad season followed by a great season, it makes it more fun, doesn't it? As opposed to just, oh, we've won. And then we end up with an empty stadium. Surely a top 4 and a 90 points isn't a failure. It's just an exciting chapter in a book.
No, that's because yeah, we are against the country. Let's not forget that. But let's not forget Man City are small, and let's not forget this club that we've built. We've been like this for years and decades. We've been a big club for a long time. We've been winning trophies for a long time. We ain't just got onto the scene like City have. That's the thing. This should be instilled into our Man United. Man United are a bigger club than us, but they're wanting to get back into trophies. I saw today Arsenal's Edu. He came out and said top 4 is not good enough. We should be challenging for the title. If he's saying that as an Arsenal fan when they've been in as low as anyone can go in terms of the top clubs, then why are we accepting sort of top 4? We've built that foundation now. Top 4 should be not inevitable, but it shouldn't be questioned, unless a freak season to happen. Like, context is everything. If an injury hit season like that,
But Damon, how can you say context is everything when your entire argument is that ignore context? It's about the Prem title or not.
Ignore context, but if we have a full season with full, not an injury hit season like that was just a freak season when we had all them injuries. That's not going to happen again. It's very, very rare that's going to happen again. And if going by that logic, this season we should be winning something, especially one of the big boys.
Yeah, I'll predict. I'm very comfortable saying we have a great chance, if not we should be favorites for the Champions League. If you're putting money on anybody to win the Champions League and it's not us, you're a fool. You're an idiot. The domestic titles, I think, are a bit more up in the air. We had a good deal of fortune go our way in both of those competitions. You can't look at that any other way. Like, you look at the 2-goal comeback against Leicester, winning that on penalties, scraping it by Arsenal during AFCON. We didn't score a goal in any of our 3 finals. So, you look at the margins that we scraped by on those 2 results, but we kind of eked our luck out in the 2 domestic cups, and then it dried up when the big boys came around.
The thing is, people seem to forget that those cup runs weren't even the first team most of the time. It's the fringe players that really won those cups. I know we won it in the final with the first team, but on penalties both times. But it was the fringe players that took us there. So essentially, did the first team really win out last season?
And the thing, yeah, exactly. That's a good point you make, though. I shouldn't be agreeing with you because it's a debate room, but it's City. The reason they have had so much success in both the Prem and the domestic cups is because their fringe players historically have been of a higher quality than ours. I think our depth is catching up to them. I'm not sure if it's at the level yet. I have to kind of really look at it after all the transfers that have happened, but that's why, because they were able to throw in their backups in those cup competitions, still win them, and then they have the starters for the league. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad point you make about the fact that it was the fringe players. And again, I need to always reiterate, I want us to be winning these trophies, but when I look at the season, if you told me right now, you don't tell me what position we get, but you get 90 points, I'm taking that. Like, Damon, are you? I'm not telling you what position you get or what other teams get points wise. Are you taking 90 points right now? And I'm just gonna, I'll put it out.
Good one.
You're a fool if you don't want.
90 points would usually win the Premier League, but that's that logic of winning something at the end. Your argument is you'd accept 90 points and not winning anything.
No. I'd accept 90 poents, not being guaranteed anything. I'd accept 90 points because historically, only 12 other teams have done it.
I'd rather be guaranteed. I'd rather have 80 points and win a league or a Champions League. But
you can't guarantee that because, again, let's compare the competitions. You look at the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and the Champions League. There is no other power that exists except for yourself. You win that yourself. No one can win that for you, like you saw with the Leicester title, where they didn't actually play. Our title, we didn't win because we actually played. Chelsea, they won both those matches, didn't they, to win two other teams' Premier League titles. That can't happen in the Champions League. Madrid couldn't, like Manchester City couldn't beat Real Madrid for us in the Champions League final. Those competitions, it's all in your power. Versus and this is the root of my argument, the Premier League, you don't control that. City will walk 15 out of 20 of the teams in the Premier League week in, week out because of their system, because of the way they play their football.
But we should too.
We should as well. I don't disagree. But our team has more variance, and our performances have more variance because of the way we play. We rely more on athleticism, open matches, being strong in transitions. City want to dominate possession. They want to lull teams to a sleep. And, you could win, you couldn't win every game in the Prem and not win the title because you would win every single game. But that's the only scenario where you're guaranteed to win the Premier League title, pretty much. So versus, I'm taking 90 points from day one.
We've got until Klopp goes, right, in 2027, we hit 90 points every single season. We don't win a single trophy within all that time. Is that acceptable?
I mean, that's just a fantasy situation. Like to win 90 points over 4 seasons, to get 90 points every year and not win the Premier League title. That's never happened in history, that there's been 4 straight 90-point seasons by any team, not just by one team, by any team. There's always been at least an 80-point champion in a 4-year sequence. So yes, I would 100% take 90 points guaranteed every year, because then you're just in that argument every single week. And St. Paul is saying I'm saying we needed a manager. What have I'm not like accusing you of anything, but I'm interested how you gleaned that from what I said. Like what I said made you think that I think we need a new manager. Sorry, James, go ahead.
It's fine. Definitely no, it's not. We need a new manager. But what we're going to do is we're going to flip it.
Okay. For
the next question. So, Damo, I'm going to ask you, take the 2 majors out. If we don't win anything, what scenario would make you think this has been a good season? So we don't win anything. That's off the table. Is there any variance where you think, do you know what? This has been a really good season?
I'd say the season 2 years ago, where we got injury hit and somehow we managed to get third. I think that was incredible. Without the centre-backs, without the midfield, Salah incredible. Trent stepped up, and Alisson last-minute goal. Trent last-minute goal. Yeah, I'd say that's a success in terms of that's where context comes in. you don't know that's going to happen. That's a freak season. That probably what happened again. I'd say it wasn't the target at the beginning of the season, but the targets had to change halfway through because we knew what had happened. So in the end, it was unbelievable that we came third. It was unbelievable that we came top 4, but to come third as well above Chelsea was incredible.
And Jack, for you, let's talk about what would be an unacceptable season for you. So obviously, if 90 points is there, let's say we get 70, fourth place. What would then make it an acceptable season for you?
I mean,
do we need to win a big cup, a little cup, cardboard box?
I mean, like, look back at our Champions League titles. Our last 2, we haven't won the title either of those years. The 05 one, we were not even top 4. So, like, league success doesn't always predicate Champions League success, So, yeah, I think if we finished 4th, but if we finished, like, all right, let me try to think about this. If we finished 10th and won the Champions League, would that be a success?
All right, let's compare this then. Let's compare this. Which one's the most successful season? Back in, was it 2019 when... Was it 2018 when they won and we came second? 2018, wasn't it? We came second to City, but we didn't win anything. Or 2005 when we won Champions League and came 5th.
Warrior won stuff. That's true. That's more successful, just by definition. Winning trophies is better than not winning trophies. I've never disputed this fact. Because the title of the stream is top 4 and 90 points of failure. I mean, it's not a failure. That's just if that's a failure, football is finished. That kind of dominance that is just assumed. It's just, that's not even competitive balance. If you can claim that that's not a success, because that is a wild success.
I would even take 4th with 90 points and a Carabao Cup. I wouldn't even say that.
Well, I'm not saying
it'd have to be at least the FA Cup, and that's pushing it.
FA Cup minimum for you?
If it was 90 points in a 4th, yeah.
My argument has never been that 90 points is some dream scenario, but you look at 40 points. What is it? 40 points saves you from relegation. 90 points historically wins you the Prem title. If there ever was a number you could typically throw a dart at and say that'll win you the title, it was 90 points. So I'm not claiming that the result of this past season of the Premier League was the greatest thing of all time because we got 92 points. But I despise the notion that it was somehow a failure because we were, again, 6 teams in Premier League history have gotten more points in an individual season than we did last year. 6 teams. You're a top 10 Premier League side in history. Yes, you didn't win it, but you can't look at a 38-match season and only glean from it who won more that specific year. That's a big factor, but you also have to accept that you were an incredible team. You were the second best team in the league, but the standard of those top 2 teams is so unbelievably high. It's unbelievable.
I don't think last season was a failure because we won a cup double. So
I agree. I mean,
I think it ended up disappointing in the end to what we were, we got excited about, and I still think we should have won a big trophy because we were that close. We should be beating Real Madrid. I think we've got a better team than Real Madrid. But
I'm gonna
a failure last season.
James, it's never a good idea to make fun of the host or to bully the host. I think the way you phrased this question was poor, and I'm going to pull up a comment. Hopefully, this isn't breaking any rules. I agree. I don't know where this notion that I prefer 90 points to a Premier League title came from. That's just dumb. You've got to be just the biggest fan of failure to enjoy that. I'm not saying that is failure, but that's
you got to be an Arsenal fan, haven't you? You've got to be an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, you got to be an Arsenal fan to appreciate this. How
top 4 trophy.
That's this is just not that's just poor logic. I'm saying that 90 points is a good season. A Premier League title winning season is a better season. I'm not saying here's the final thing I'll say, James, before you can kind of change the subject is City are fantastic. We are fantastic -1. That's the only situation that exists there in my mind.
Okay. Now, there's a very good chance City are going to take a step back this year. They're doing some big fundamental changes in their squad. So, do you think 90 points will win you the Premier League this year? And then I'll come to you first. Do you think that's enough?
It could do. It could do. It'd be interesting to see how Núñez and Haaland are put in, because that is a big change. Obviously, we've not played with proper number 9 since Sturridge, and that was really early Klopp days. That one, we're full into Klopp era right now, so it'd be interesting to see how Núñez comes in and Haaland, because Haaland, again, another proper striker, which he didn't have last season. Not winning the league last season when they didn't have a proper striker like that. I mean,
I'm going to call on that, by the way, because if Gabriel Jesus is a proper striker at Arsenal, which they're referring to him as a proper striker, why wasn't he a proper striker at City?
I think he suits Pep like that. It's a different kind of striker. I mean, he completely different to Aguero, and that's.
But he's still a striker, isn't he?
He was better on the right wing at City. I think the way City played, he needs space and he needs, the way Arsenal played a bit more quicker. While City just quite boring. Just need a tap-in merchant at the end. That's why Sterling scores so many.
I mean, like, I don't understand the assertion that, like, insults of Zinchenko and Jesus.
Before you jump into something else, is 90 points, in your opinion, going to win Liverpool the Premier League? Because that's the number that I was given that you said was a success. Therefore, do you think it would win you the league?
So I said earlier that I would take 90 points because it gives us a great chance of a title. The World Cup is a big factor. It disturbs things. I think that will benefit both us and City. But I think it will benefit City in the sense that they will get 90 plus again. So I don't think 90 points flat is enough. I think it's a mid-90s kind of title-winning season for me, at least, between these two sides. Because I look at the rest that both teams are going to get. I mean, yeah, they'll have some of their top-level players will be taking that time. But the mental rest for 40 to 50 to 60% of the squad will lead to almost an ability to kind of go for those first 15, 16 matches really hard. You probably see 12 to 13 wins for both Liverpool and City in that first stretch of the season. Then you got 22 after that. Then you're going to have probably a race to the finish. I agree with Jen's comment. I think 95 points wins it. So if it was just 90 for Liverpool, I don't think that's enough.
Okay. Now, we are currently at 52% of the vote are saying Damo's right. 48% of the vote is saying Jack's right. So it's neck and neck. So 30 minutes gone. I think it's only sensible that we start to move into closing statements.
Closing already, James. Closing already.
Closing already. We're 30 minutes in, Jack. It's flown by, hasn't it? So, Damo, I'm going to ask you to close first because I asked Jack to open. Please close the statement.
Hey, James, in all fairness, Damon opened for us.
All right. So you can close then.
Yeah. Closing statement. All right. I want everyone to note in the chat, if you're waiting to vote, how honorable a participant I am for allowing Damon to close. So please consider that deeply when you're deciding who to vote for, who won this debate. Sportsmanship award, me. Give it to me. My final point.
You can go next to the 90 points trophy.
Yes, it will sit firmly right next to it. So let's get back to the root question. In this title, is top 4 and 90 points a failure? It is not a failure. And I don't think you can say it's a failure because so few teams in history have gone where we have gone before. 92 points. And we'll even cut it down to 90. Just make it simple. 90 points. Only 12 teams have done that, including this current iteration of Liverpool. We've been beaten twice by a team that's been better than us that year. You can argue it's luck. You can argue they're better. I'm of the opinion that they're a bit better because you have to respect the opponent. For me, and I mentioned it earlier, similar to that relegation 40-point target to save yourself from relegation, historically 90 points has been enough to win the title. So if you said, Damon, 90 points next 4 years for us to Klopp, I'm not only believing we'll win at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 titles in that span, I'm happy because we're going to be winning matches week in, week out, and we will be a brilliant, brilliant side to watch if we're having that caliber of result. At the end of the day, when Jurgen Klopp says top 4 is the goal and a title race can only come, after you first get into a top 4 qualification situation, he's totally right because you need to take it week by week. You need to respect your opposition. You need to respect the fact that you're not going to walk every team in the Premier League. No team in the Premier League is a walk in the park for anybody. regardless of what the success of the last few years have seen from City and Liverpool. It's so hard to get that many points because the players are so talented, the teams are so good. So to be able to get to that level of performance, to that level of result, it deserves respect. It deserves, admiration for getting 90 points, because that's very difficult to do. The results, I was as disappointed as anybody when we did not win that title, because City pulled off that one last moment. And those margins are so fine over a 38-match season. So you'll look back and you'll think about the Leicester defeat, the West Ham defeat, the draw with Spurs, all those moments where things could have been slightly different. You'll look back on those and you'll be very upset. But for me, at the end of the day, I wouldn't change anything about last season, to be honest with you, because, you could change it so you win 2 titles, obviously, duh. But it was so close to perfect that to even repeat that, even if you fell short yet again, it'd still be unbelievable, the standard at which they're playing right now. To get 90 points again next year and not win a title again, it would be like, you'd hope that third time's the charm, in terms of not being beaten off by a team who have 90 points as well and are just slightly better than you. So,
Demo, closing statements from you.
Right, the debate is Jack thinks 90 points and no trophies is acceptable for the Liverpool Football Club right now. Mine is, I'd rather have less points and win trophies, whether it be 76 points and win the Premier League or Champions League. Go on.
That's not my argument, Damon. I've never said it's okay. You know what? It's your closing argument.
No, it's not.
It's his closing argument. He can twist it however he wants. That's
he's just lying. He's lying to the audience.
His debate is it's acceptable. That's what it is. You're saying it's acceptable. It's not a failure.
Yeah, it's not a failure.
Acceptable and failure. This is terminology, isn't it? Again,
I never said acceptable. I never said that.
Well, it's the opposite of as not a failure. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Look up thesaurus.
A thesaurus. All right, let's. if you're wrong, I get another.
Acceptable is not a failure. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of failure.
The antonym of acceptable, unacceptable.
Oh yeah.
That was not very helpful. That was not helpful at all.
But anyway, yeah, my point is if I come to this last game of the season, we've not won the FA Cup, we've not won the League Cup, we're not in the Champions League final, and we're down to the last game of the season with Man City again by maybe a point again, and we lose it in the last game of the season, my phone's getting turned off, put it that way. Because we've failed. Whether we're on 96 points, 99 points, 106 points, and City on 107 points, we've failed. We've not won anything. Man United go win the FA Cup. They've won more than us that season. I'm not accepting that is not a failure. If Man United win something and we do not, with that state, Maguire at the back, there's no chance. Absolutely no chance. Liverpool are the greatest English team ever in terms of trophies. The most successful. Success is only through trophies. Alex Ferguson did not become that by coming second. He didn't even hit 90 points, did he? Did he even hit 90 points?
He did.
Once, I think.
3 times.
3 times.
Very rarely. Very rarely. It's very rare we saw 90 points before City and Liverpool. So, yeah, the standard has gone up, and it's going to be really hard again. But we still need to be winning a trophy. We are, like I said, we're second best team in England, and we should be probably the favourites to the Champions League. If you're going to go by the last couple of 3-4 seasons, we are the best team in Europe on our day. So if we don't go on and win that, that's a failure. Then even it's a failure for PSG, and they've never won it. So, if it's a failure for them, there's a failure for us. If it's a failure for Man City, who've never won the Champions League, then that's a failure for us as well. We can't not win a trophy this season. We've got to win. Like I said, League Cup's not acceptable. It's got to be one of the big boys this season. We should have won one of the big boys last season. We could accept it because we got a cup double, and it was an incredible year. But this season's not acceptable. We need to win a trophy.
So, as we come towards the end I'm just doing a quick summary. In terms of Jack's not saying it's acceptable to get 90 points and failure. What he's saying is it's not failure if we don't win something. They are very much of the opinion now is the time. You know, we've got this generational team put together. It should be clocking up something every year. And if you haven't had your say, you've probably got a minute left to get a vote on this before we see what the result is of the vote. You know, and if you do have any of your comments, you know, what failure is. You know, there is failing and there is failure. There is acceptable, there is unacceptable. There is what you would take, there is what you wouldn't take. And the brilliance of English language is we have the same word that means different things to everybody. But I think we've had quite a lot of conversations about failure in the past and the terminology of failure. It's quite a harsh term. But, you know, as Damon's pointed out, we've got the best players in multiple positions. But that doesn't mean that the greatest manager isn't a failure. Just waiting for it to click to 12, and then I'm pretty much calling it. And as I say that, we are bang on 50-50 with a minute to go. I'm not even kidding. Damo just, like, it's back and forth before we get 2011. It was 50-50. I'm waiting for it to get to 12. Damo's just taken one vote lead.
What?
Damon, that means there's quite a lot of people that don't want a victory parade at the end of the season, isn't it?
Get off your phone, Damon. Stop voting for yourself.
You vote for yourself. If you win by a point, that's you.
50-50 again. We've just hit 2012, the close of the vote, and it is a 50-50 debate end. Even Steven. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to keep this recording up. We're going to keep the poll up. We're going to let people who watch this debate as a recording cast their vote and make a decision, because on today's debate room, nobody's made a choice. Nobody's been definitive. It is a 50-50 split, 30 votes. Nobody can decide if a top 4 and 90 points is a failure. They're not saying it's acceptable. They're not saying it's a failure. This has been LFC Transfer Room. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. We do individual videos. We do debate room videos. We do watch-alongs. This has been one of our debate rooms. I've been James. Thank you very much, Damo and Jack, for your research and planning of this and having the argument for everyone's viewing pleasure. We will catch you on the next one, where hopefully one of you guys can be declared the winner. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you again.